have a fine talk with what are we doing today. So where am I at? I've been watching a few television programs. One of the most interesting programs was the Brexton Family Values that I've watched all over the years, and I've really now went back over a few YouTube series after those seasons. And what intrigued me of those programs are exactly today what are we doing as human beings. And I really quickly want to talk about that with everyone. I want the video camera angle to be in a fine way so that everyone can listen to what I'm saying. And I want everyone to understand that when they chase us around the world, and when chasing around the world becomes something that affects even the celebrity house about it. And when we as people look at the Brixton family, and then we look at my Mama Anna Philander, that is represented through the mother of them. And when the world calls me into that room of watching this journey, of having to live the days and the journeys of that family, and when I learned that while the are being aired, while there's an international team of meeting that is managing the program itself, that humanity ambition of the program says that there's danger factors concerning people that find themselves employed in television, and the people in the television room looks like you because they might be family, because they might be the same part of the universe, because they might have had a transplant, that we don't realize when our days are being traced, and when we find ourselves being vulnerable to the abuse. There is now not only a program, but an explanation of a life journey of a human being. And that sometimes seems like the human being wants to do what they are wanting to do, and it seems like other people requires them to do exactly what they require of them. And then when the person doesn't do exactly the perfect picture, then the whole world chases the person's life about. And on the day when the Braxton family's mother looks like my mother, Anna Philander, and the daughters present me and my sister Antoinette, and we live our days and our lives in a way that we are required to in our season. And half of the African people in Africa sits and they disagree with Ribea Elise on any day, with what I do, with what I wear, with how I present myself, with where I find myself in any season. And they feel that my mother have sometimes maybe said something a little bit too loud in this world. And then Ribea Elise says to the team of people in South Africa that works on the Brixton process, to the team of people in China that designs Ribea's AWOKH clothing, and when Ribea wears the clothes, then it exactly looks like the Braxton family values clothing. Ribea says to the team of New Zealand that gets the messages from Africa that this is what they require in the world. And then Ribea says this is Ribea Elise in this world and day. And to the half of the world that works on the processes to oppress her mother in the world, to oppress her household in the world, to oppress her family in the world. Then Ribea says to Auckland, New Zealand, if South Africa and Africa wants to rule a Ribea Elise's day or life, then Ribea says to Africa, how does your Africa look today? And then Ribea says to South Africa, how does your colored child look today? Not even in any day do they understand the meetings that certain people have in this world that relates to our days. Not even do they understand the dangers enrolled with China designing Ribea's wardrobe when Ribea goes on sign, and the sign robot says, order this dress, and Ribea switches the Brixton television program on, and it's exactly as that. And New Zealand is exactly in a process where they exactly want to oppress, and they do not realize the dangers concerning the processes that relates to television programs in this world. And then no one else comes to run in front of a with the process that they do not even realize what it, then they listen to what a Vogue business presents in a season. And they cannot stand to perceive how the celebrity house have to function within a Vogue business and what to be, or if they do not yet perceive what Ribea Elise's life journey any day or the other. and then no one runs in front of you. And that's where I'm at in my season. It is that I had so many people running in front of me. South Africa sending messages into Auckland, New Zealand about my day because they receive television communications from America, and South Africa doesn't halfway understand the information that they are working with. They doesn't halfway understand the processes that are required to allow themselves to listen to of what does the explanation mean when Ribea Elise's mother looks like the Braxton mother in America. When the television program are aired like that, and the design is the same, and the parenting in the universe are the same, then humanity doesn't halfway perceive how to manage Ribea Elise's life journey on any day or the other. And in that process, when humanity tries to endanger our households, then it's not gonna be a fine day on earth. Because the moment that you try to control a process and that is a normal life journey, and then the world looks like wars, the world looks like poverty, the world looks like oppressions, and everyone wants to paint themselves the picture that New Zealand is a fine place, so the world is actually a fine place. And to all of those teams managing the process today, I want to be kind in saying that I'm going to get myself a cool drink just now or something to drink. And I'm going to enjoy whatever I find myself doing in my day. Without someone having to tell themselves that they have to manage the journey of my day. Whether it is on a live stream video, whether it is with my AWOKH education, whether it relates to Nibblebus that I've been employed at, whether it includes Justin Oates' name it, will and build it, whether what of any person includes anyone's name in any day, then no one tries to manage Ribea Elise's life when this earth is exactly including every human being on this earth. And if humanity once again want to endanger one another with these processes, try to manage a process that they cannot manage. Try to manage a person's life journey the way that they have rushed around me with communications and with processes and with African traditions and where the mother looks like this, so the world must look like that. If anyone tries to put a person in poverty in this world again under this process that they cannot manage, and then the world is gonna even look worse than it looks today. Until some people learn to listen to when I educate on my AWOKH business and I say, take a step back, everyone. I say calmly in 2022, take a step back, everyone. Wherever y'all are at, it aggresses me, it makes people paranoid, it makes you drunk. Where you are at, you sometimes find yourself endangered because some people want to manage a process that is a normal life journey of you that they cannot sometimes manage. Some people want to know when you're going to be at what restaurant so that they can poison your food, so that they can poison your drink, so that they can control things about your Ribea Elise that is sometimes uncontrollable for humanity. When humanity one day find themselves wanting to threaten someone's life under this process, wanting to control someone going to a restaurant under this process of abuse in this world, then the world is gonna look worse than the world is looking in the year 2024. Because the only thing that we require when we are living our normal daily lives is that every process, if it's under a business or under office, then it's managed under that. But a person's normal day, a person's normal mobile communication, a person's normal restaurant going becomes your life journey, and you enjoy and appreciate the sensitivity and the privacy of that in everything that the celebrity house educates you about your privacy. And if our privacies are not respected in that way, then we cannot promise the lenience that we will have on people that tries to endanger our days. I look at my daughter Kiara's school clothes today, and the school clothes looks like a cleaning person who works in Africa, and Kiara has walked with those school clothes in New Zealand, and that looks like someone says to my daughter Kiara that she's going to be a slave in this world. And South Africa has worked with New Zealand on that process until South Africa got me to New Zealand. My daughter is on secondary school. It's a first year in secondary school. And the whole school wardrobes look like the daughter is a cleaner in someone else's kitchen in this world. There's certain people in the world that find themselves wanting to live in mafia life, wanting to live in drug lifestyles, wanting to live in oppressive lifestyles to humanity. But when a person like Ribea Elise births a daughter, then no school says to Ribea Elise that your daughter Kiara can't be in such a school because she needs to go to the school that looks like the cleaner in the world school, that looks like the gangsters that wants to be gangsters in this world. If New Zealand has a process where they are direct with gangsters, and Ribea says to New Zealand, because Doreen applied by a few secondary schools in New Zealand. There was a few South African secondary schools in New Zealand, and the South African secondary school says to Ribea, no, Kiara can't go to that school. If my child has to be oppressed under an oppressive in the household or my family line is not guilty to serve under an oppressive process in New Zealand, that there's regulations in this world. And if my child were required to enter a process where our household was not under drug abuse, was not under oppressive processes of mafia communications in this world, and our children find themselves endangered, I care for New Zealand schools, and I am voicing my opinion on my social media pages. I'm gonna put my child in a communication line that has got to do with parents that are oppressing the world's processes. And if when a viewer in high school New Zealand does not find out what their process mean in this world, and what they are going to do to the children that are going to the education room of Meneriwa High School in New Zealand. And New Zealand want to house those children in abusive houses. And I do not agree with any abusive process anyway on children. But what I say to everyone working on this international regulation, a fair requirement to respond to every house individually and independently. And if my household is not handled in a fair way in Auckland, New Zealand, then not even South Africa is going to find themselves fine through any day. Because if I'm born South Africa and the world I'm process and the world has to house us and manage our houses in a certain way, and the world endangers us by managing our houses in a certain way, then the governments of this world and the people of this world are not going to find themselves in that day. Because if no one can explain to me why my daughter is exactly presenting an oppressive communication in South Africa, and I'm from South Africa in New Zealand, and New Zealand can't explain to me why they couldn't accept my daughter at a different school. And New Zealand couldn't have communicated to Ribea Elise the communication of what is happening at Meneriwa High School in a fine way for me and for Kiara. If New Zealand wanted to say, Ribea Elise, the school are presenting exactly this and presenting this, and we want to explain it to you so that you can voice that to the world, and then it would have been a fine opinion. But if New Zealand wants to tell Ribea that we color you by the colors of Paarl Malls cleaners that are mopping the floor like your mother Anna Philander in Paarl Hospital, and that your daughter now finds out dressing in a way that the world wants to paint a picture and walk a journey with your daughter, and the world doesn't understand and realize what they are doing. And I always say I am not difficult with where I'm at. But every person has a requirement to be handled in a fair and a fine way where they are at. And my fair and my fine requirement is in Auckland, New Zealand. And I have been kind with them. I have been kind with the international communications. I have been kind with understanding that they are learning from the American Celebrity House. I have been kind with understanding that no one in the world exactly understands what a Mama Braxton Mama means and a Mama Anna Philander. I have been kind in educating in all my communications to them, and that this is how I can explain the process to the world. And this is my 40 years, my journey, that I can explain this process to the world too. And if anyone tries to threaten a person throughout that journey, then whoever tries to threaten the person and the government managing a threatening process to threaten her household finds themselves guilty of oppressing the world in general. So to every communication that comes from South Africa, that comes into Auckland, New Zealand, that relates to a Ribea, Elise. I say that we live in a world where we can laugh at Donald Trump's edits on his photos and the New Yorker magazine edits on our vote business. We live in a world where Ribea can laugh when they blast her lips so big on a photo. We live in the world where Donald Trump once said that he's a business owner, and he exactly sometimes only wanted to do that. We live in a world where he was oppressed to do the harshest things in this world. And we live in a world where people tell themselves that let's walk the Donald Trump journey, where we create this character and we make this Ribea the ugliest person in the whole wide world. And anyone in the world can be ugly on any day. And in the fairness of managing my business and of what I require, and of where the world is at with oppressing certain households, and with how the world feels with wanting to oppress a household, and with the world teaming up with certain people because some people in the world want to be more advanced than a Ribea Elise in a season, or than a Mama Anna Philander's house in a season. And then I want to, in all kindness, recognize myself in a season where some people want to unrecognize. Where South Africa communicates and say, but look at the Braxton family, look at how harsh they sound in those programs. And when you learn that they were actually explaining the prisoner in the prison cells, how it feels to be a prisoner under certain processes in this world, how humiliative the world can sometimes drag them and rip them apart like the world wants to rip a Ribea Elise apart. And half of the world runs with you on this journey and process. And half of the world want to proclaim you as this loud person because they're actually addressing you so that you can be the loudest in the room on that day. God bless the soul of Tracy Braxton that has had to be the loudest prisoner in the room of wearing an orange wardrobe on that day. God bless the children in this world. But no one rips no one apart in this world and just get away with it. And to the Kardashian teams and the Vanderpump Rule teams in America that want to compare them to the Braxton house that is communicating to Ribea Elise, and the Vanderpump Rules needs to communicate to a different house, but they want to oppress the Braxton house communications. And then we tell everyone in the room, if you do not know how to communicate, and you do not know what the Braxton family are explaining concerning the struggles in the world of certain African American people in America, and you want to voice for the colored people in this world, and then you do it in a way that is fine where y'all are at in your season. Because in our veins is colored also, like the Braxton family explains it to all of y'all. But y'all are a generation of people that wants to get us to the point of being the drunkest. When Dubai called me in 2004 to be the Ribea Elise, the drunkest with the tequila table in that room. And when every camera angle in Dubai couldn't camera how drunk Ribea Elise was when Dubai said there's a table full of tequilas for you for your 21st birthday, so that we can present you as the drunkest Ribea in the whole of the world through all of these camera videos. When Dubai couldn't get it right in 2004, and today we're sitting in 2024. And the world tried to communicate to New Zealand to make Ribea Elise aggressive so that Ribea can now seem like the most angriest person because of the processes. That includes a cleaning process, that includes a child's school education, that includes where she finds herself at, that includes her financial circumstances, and the whole world want to rip you apart in that process. In that process of communication and of ruling the world. Then Ribea Elise says to the kindness, in the kindness of this world, that I do not agree with a process that does not recognize the person that are having to be acknowledged in the process. If humanity cannot learn to acknowledge one another, if they cannot learn to acknowledge one another, then they cannot stand in the process that requires recognition and acknowledgement. If anyone manage a process in the world that they do not recognize the people that are affected by the processes, when the world looks like a country that are in war and the war is out of control, and then it means the people are not recognized in the process. And the people are not recognized by the government. By the governments that are affected by the war circumstances. And then such people have to sometimes take a step back and learn to know how to manage a person in this world, how to manage an office in this world, how to manage a process in this world. And if no one can do that, then I would suggest that no one tries again to stand in front of a Ribea, Elise, or an AWOKH business, that they do not have the recognition of AWOKH in an AWOKH business or an AWOKH process. I think everyone who works along on the post-fashion book photos, I think everyone who works along on the journey of Ribea, Elise, there is an amazing explanation from South Africa into America, into New Zealand, into the internationalness of my birth. But if people do not realize what it is that they're communicating about, then they sometimes need to know when to take a step back. Certain people that are sitting and owning certain processes in the world needs to know that Ribea, Elise says, listen to when do y'all take a step back in such a process. Because this is not only a process in a Ribea, Elise's day, but it is a person's life journey. The same way I advocate that my Nibblybit's job includes me, the person that I employed at the business. And if Nibblybits find themselves rushing also in America's celebrity house with the process, and they called me in the office to employ me so that they can mess in my life's journey, then the business owners also in this world needs to take a step back. Because no way can they run with a one house process that includes every individual on this earth. And they want to manage it in a one house room that includes celebrity house, that includes the office, that includes your household that you stay in, that includes you, the person, and they do not recognize the person. The recognition required in such a process. South Africa, that keeps themselves very clever with Ribea, Elise, with wanting to run to the world with stories about Ribea, Elise's upbringing. And that wants to manage offices in the world with wanting to explain the Ribea, Elise to the world. If you're explaining something and you do not recognize the person, then you are not allowed to explain the person to the world. The Ribea, Elise runs into a boardroom and I do my podcast and I do my YouTube videos and I do my educations as chaotic as it might be in any one day and that a human being walks the day on earth. But then it's more safer for me to explain it in my chaotic way than everyone else trying to run around me with my name. I say that in any day that the Braxton family was sounding too drunk to explain the communication that they find themselves in. Then they had to be recognized being the people under that communication of the international television. And humanity couldn't have recognized them. And one of their family members had to be deceased because they were not recognized with explaining their communication to the world. And that even the world didn't understand their language. Because the world wanted to look at them as a process. When they were the people that explained the process. And my Braxton says, the people. Do you recognize the person in the process? She says to her husband that you are my person. And when the world wants to run with the family, and the world wants to look a certain mama like the loudest mama in the world, the children like the loudest children in the world, and the world says, but in AWOKH, we give you all an award for it. And the people are not recognized for their opinion in their day. And then those that are against them find themselves against themselves. For such is the fairness in the recognition of fairness in this world. I always say we live in a very fair world, and humanity should never get it wrong. We live in a universe that functions in fairness, and that humanity tries to oppress one another's household with unfairness, but we live in a fair universe. And under the process of fairness, the universe recognizes every human being birth in every second of every day. And if humanity wants to tell themselves that they do not want to recognize certain families, or they want to recognize it in a way that they want to recognize it, and then the force of the universe says that we live in a world that are fair world. And if the world that we live in are a world that functions in fairness, and someone else is not recognized under the fairness of it, and then the function that is unfair finds themselves fighting and oppressing themselves in a city. And then we listen to the requirement that my husband wants to currently cut the grass where I'm at, and I'm currently having to get up because the recognition of him speaking to me is a fair recognition. And under a world that we recognize one another's reactions, no matter how loud it is, no matter how harsh it is, no matter how it might seem, but the recognition due you, the person, is a fair functioning of a world that functions under the fairness of itself. And on that, we conclude this video today with where I'm at in my season, what I have to say, and when New Zealand is wanting to manage a process that affects the Ribea Elise in that day. And on that, we conclude this season and this communication of this video, that if New Zealand doesn't learn to recognize Ribea Elise, and New Zealand finds themselves listening to the communications that South Africa sends themselves about Ribea Elise's mother, that they are painting this picture in the world about a certain type of mother. And then New Zealand find themselves guilty of not recognizing the person and the household and the mother of Ribea Elise, that was the human being born under the fairness of this universe. And therefore, every meeting that includes our households. My sister is finding herself in England. She's employed very professionally. My brothers are in South Africa. And in the fairness of recognition to our household, that no one goes to proclaim someone as guilty if they did not find any reason to proclaim someone else as guilty in this world. And that if anyone in this world doesn't understand today what I'm saying, then I say go and listen to all my podcasts and all my explanations, because I explain it in a way that is fine for everyone to listen to. What am I, Ribea Elise, saying in that day? That I do not explain with languages that people doesn't understand, with processes that people doesn't know what I'm talking about. Explain it in the world that the world has to learn to recognize one another under the birthness and the birth womb of fairness in this world. And with that, I want to conclude this discussion, and I want to say we're going to have a sunset evening again on Friday or Saturday night. And we're going to have a calm afternoon, but with the recognition of fairness. Do not run after people with communication